Hi, I'm Martin Warwick. We're here at the Small Cells World Summit 2014 here in London's Docklands at Excel, and I'm talking with Gordon Mansfield, who is the chairman of the Small Cell Forum and also AVP for Small Cell Solutions at AT&T. Gordon, you're welcome. You have two roles here. How do the two knit together? Explain what you do and why you have two jobs.
So, at AT&T I have the end-to-end responsibility to drive our small cell program. And so I directly own our development, work within the AT&T Labs organization, have direct responsibility to develop the end-to-end solutions that we use for small cells. And then I also have the distinguished pleasure of working cross-functionally to kind of help the cross-functional teams understand how can they use the technology to change their processes to deploy small cells in an efficient, cost-effective way.
How are telcos leveraging existing backhaul capabilities?
When you think about small cell networks, it really, and you think about the backhaul for them, it really takes a toolbox full of options when you think about the transport. Because you really need to be able to place small cells where the traffic is, not necessarily where the backhaul is. And so that creates some interesting dynamics. And so the way that the way that AT&T has started to look at that is not just looking at traditional backhaul that we'd use for our macro network, but also look at technologies like VideaCell that we use in our what we brand as our U-Verse service for consumers and businesses. We actually use those same circuits that have been developed and deployed in those applications, broadband services, to backhaul small cells in some of those same neighborhoods where those circuits exist today. We've also then been forced to look outside of the box and say, okay, it's not just what exists today, but what other new technologies are out there that gives us cost-effective solutions so that we can put the right backhaul solution in place for the use case, for the location, for the engineering requirements for that exact install.
We're seeing this massive increase in data traffic globally. What new solutions are being introduced to cope with that?
Well, what ends up happening is there's multiple ways to meet the increase. One is in a mobile network you can add spectrum. Obviously that gives you more capacity. You can serve more traffic at higher speeds. You can deploy new technology like LTE, get more efficiencies, greater speeds. Or you can go and densify the network and have fewer users per cell, which gives them that increased speed. And so now when you start densifying and using more cells, that's where tying it back to the backhaul, you've got to start looking at additional new backhaul solutions to tie that all in to the network to be able to carry that in a HETnet configuration across the overall mobile network.
And how can backhaul be used to increase speed and reliability to wireless customers?
Well, so from a reliability perspective, a lot of times the reliability is really governed by how good of a signal a user may have at any given point. And so when you start taking small cells and placing them where the users are, they have a much stronger connectivity. If they have a much stronger connectivity, they have a lesser chance of dropping the signal and therefore keeping the reliability up. Additionally, because you're putting so many more cells in the network, if one fails, from a reliability perspective, there's typically others that can pick that traffic, pick that traffic up. Whereas in a macro sense, if you lose one, you lose a broad area, and it's hard to pick all that traffic up. So those two things help improve the reliability.
What do you think are the specific backhaul needs of small cells, and do you think that Wi-Fi can ever be a practical solution?
So you do have two technologies that run in parallel, and frankly I like to think of it as complementary technologies. It's really not an either or, a lot of times it's and. And so the backhaul needs for both of the technologies are actually common. They're when you think about it for access to the end user, they're very common backhaul needs. Personally, however, when I think about the backhaul for those cells, because anytime I have a licensed service, I want to make sure that I've got an end-to-end QoS, including a reliable link for that service. And so if I planned in advance to deploy the cell, I always look for a licensed or a fixed connection. However, if I've got an urgent need, an emergency situation, I need to provide coverage now and I don't have time to get a licensed solution in place, it is possible that you could use Wi-Fi as the backhaul to get it up and running. You've got to assess the situation in real time. Is the Wi-Fi signal sufficient? Does it have sufficient quality to carry the service? If it does, you can stand a cell up using that, and then maybe come back if it's going to be a more longer-term permanent link and use a licensed or fixed connection to make sure that you maintain a reliable link.
And finally, what's the business case for carrier Wi-Fi? Lots of people say there isn't one.
So carrier Wi-Fi actually is a big strategy for AT&T, and so one of the big benefits with carrier Wi-Fi is you start to bring a security element that doesn't exist in open Wi-Fi today. And so if we can secure the signal, that's a first step. There's other technologies in carrier Wi-Fi like ANDSF and some other types of functionality that might be useful to go and steer your traffic, manage your traffic, to where if you've got real-time services that you want to have a guaranteed quality of service end-to-end, you might put on your licensed asset, whereas your best effort, you might be able to steer that to your unlicensed asset, so that you can balance both your licensed and unlicensed assets real-time based on subscriber demand, localized conditions, because in the end of the day, the customer doesn't care if it's licensed, unlicensed, they care about the quality of experience. And so if you can bring those together with carrier Wi-Fi and licensed small cells or macro networks and deliver that quality of experience, then I think the customers will be happy.
Gordon Mansfield, thanks a lot.
Thank you.